Okay, let's preview the NRL 2025 Vegas games. We've got four games this year. Obviously, we start with Warrington Wigan from the Super League, and I think that one's going to be a close game. I think Wigan are slight favourites. I think Warrington have been slightly disrupted by Sam Burgess having his visa issues, which may work in Warrington's favour because it might galvanise the squad. It's like the rest of the world versus us, but I think Wigan are going to have too much. I think the benefit of this game being first is the playing surface is going to be perfect. It's going to be a nice, firm, flat track, and I think we're going to see a lot of expansive play in the first game. I think the first 20 minutes will go a long way to decide the outcome. I think that's going to be key in all four games, is how both sides in each game approach that first 20 minutes. Um, so I think that's an area to look out for. I think we're going to have too much, though. I really do. I think it'll be close, but I think Wigan, while Warrington are young and exciting and they do like playing some expansive stuff, they've also got to win the forward contest. And I just think Wigan they're just going to have a bit too much. And I think it's going to be close, but I think we're going to edge it by maybe 6 to 8 points, maybe a field goal in there, maybe 7 points. And I think the intensity levels are not going to be as high as the NRL games. I still think it's a good appetizer before the main course, which comes later. I think it's a good way to start the day's play, I just think though it's more of a warm up for the main event. But I do think we're going to have a little bit too much. But it's going to be fun to see both sides get expansive, and it's going to be fun to see how both sides adapt to the unusual playing surface dimensions. I think the English clubs will adapt quicker to the smaller pitch dimensions than a standard rugby league pitch, because they do come across some quirky pitches over in the Super League. The second game is the Canberra Raiders, New Zealand Warriors. This one's going to be fun. We've got a young Canberra team which has worked really hard in pre-season on fitness, and Ricky Stewart's saying that this is one of the fittest squads he's ever had. So they've worked really hard on their fitness. They are a team in transition, though. They've lost a lot of senior leaders, so this is a young team. This Warriors side underperformed last year, second season syndrome, but they've added Fisher Harris. Metcalf is back fit, and they play better with Metcalf in the side. Harris Tavita is going to be his halves partner, which I think is not a bad shout. The interesting thing is Tuivasa-Sheck on the wing, not at fullback. Nickel Clockstack is at fullback, even though he could play wing. So I think that's an interesting ploy. Is that to deal with the aerial ball? Is that to deal with Fogarty's kicking game? Because you want Roger Tuivasa-Sheck at fullback ideally, but is that to negate the kicking game of Fogarty? That's going to be interesting with his aerial ability. He's a bit better under the high ball than Nickel Clockstack in the wide areas, so maybe there's that. I think both sides are going to just throw the ball around. They still have the advantage of having a fresher playing surface than the later games, and this is going to be. I think one of a more open game, simply because both sides are coming off disappointing seasons. The Raiders are a team in transition. The Warriors have got some new faces in there, some new combinations. This could be the game that is the most open of the weekend. Then we have the Women's International between England and Australia, the NRLW girls against the Super League girls, basically, although there are some NRLW talent in the England side. I think the Gillaroos are going to have too much. I really do think the Gillaroos are going to have too much. They've got more full-time players in their squad. They play at a higher intensity and a higher standard, and in part it's because they have the shorter games, where they're playing 70 minutes in the NRLW, playing 80 minutes in the Women's Super League. So the fitness and fatigue is going to tell in this one. I think they've got more talent in the wide areas. I think the forward battle is going to be fun, but I think in the wide areas they have just more fitness and pace. And I do think it's going to be a very open game. The only way the England Lionesses could have a chance is if they get under the skin of the Gillaroos, make it a stop-start game, make it niggly, disrupt the flow. But I just think the Gillaroos, that first 20 minutes is going to decide the game. I think if they get dominance, good kick pressure, good territory, good kick chase, and make the Lionesses run it from deep and start their sets from deep, that's going to tire them out. Positioning on the field is going to be key in this one, but I think that the Gillaroos have too much talent. I think this could be the only real blowout score of the day. I think it's going to be about 20 points difference. It may be closer, but I think that the the Gilleries are going to have too much. Watching the NRLW develop over the last couple of years, and the quality of fitness and skill, yeah, and looking at how England fluffed it in the World Cup at home, yeah, I just think the Gilleries are going to have too much. And by this point, the pitch is going to be getting a bit cut up. It's going to have had 2 full games on it of brutal first grade rugby league, which may not disrupt the women too much because they're used to having double headers with the men and playing on, regional playing surfaces in the NRLW. But it's also going to be an experience for these women. This is going to be potentially the biggest crowd they've ever played in front of, and it's the first time playing in an indoor stadium. So that's going to be interesting as well, how they deal with the conditions, with the ground, with the stadium, with the atmosphere. And I just think the NRLW players are used to having bigger crowds than the Super League players. Simple. The final game is Penrith Panthers against the Cronulla Sharks. Penrith last year did start on the little bit of the slow side. I think without Luai and Fisher-Harris in the Penrith setup this year, I think those new combinations we've seen in the last couple of seasons, they've looked a little bit clunky in the opening couple of rounds of a season. They will come good at the end of the season, but this is where I think they're most vulnerable. I think the Cronulla Sharks will be disappointed with how their finals campaign fizzled out. But they had a good run of consecutive unbeaten streak and consecutive wins in the middle patch of the season where they looked really good. Nico Hines, though, just had his moments where the pressure got to him a little bit. He tried to do too much, tried to make the perfect play, and he wasn't fully fit. And I think that Origin debacle for him, I think, hurt his confidence. But according to sources within the Sharks, he's had a brilliant off-season. He's working on the mental side of his game. On his day, Nico Hines, there's a reason why he won the Dally M a couple of seasons ago. On his day, he is brilliant. He does need Trindle and some of the other creative players around him to take some of that pressure off. And also, they need to win that territory game, which also relieves some of the pressure. Because if Penrith get control of the territory, regardless if they're playing well or not, their defence will wear you down. If Penrith, regardless of if they're not quite clicking, if they can get that kick chase and that territorial pressure, look what happened against Melbourne in the grand final. Was that the best Penrith performance in the first half? No. But did they position themselves in the right areas in that game? Yes. So the second half kicks in and Melbourne have got nothing left. Melbourne were tackled to a standstill. Harry Grant was out on his feet, which meant he couldn't create. And so if Penrith are allowed to do that, the territory side of things and the kick chase and the defence pressure, the blitzing defence, then it's going to be a long day for Cronulla. If Cronulla, however, can disrupt Penrith, start their sets from, let's say, the 30-metre line rather than the 20 or the 10, and negate that kick pressure and territory pressure, and if they can use the 40-20, which we know Nico Hines can do, we know the back three of Cronulla can be explosive. Both wingers can be. Stone Street is going to, I think, be key in getting them front foot ball. It's going to be interesting. On the Penrith side of things, Cleary's got a new halves partner for the first time in years. I'm surprised they didn't go with Schneider just for his extra experience, just for the one-off game. Schneider has travelled with the side, but I am surprised Schneider wouldn't partner with Cleary just for the one-off game, just because he's got that NRL experience. He's also played in a Challenge Cup final in front of a bigger crowd at Wembley. So I am a little bit surprised, but they obviously want to get the 7 and 8 combination right, 5/8 and half back, and they want to just work with this combination at least to start the season until other players can get up to speed. I think it's Blaze Tuolangi they've signed, so other players can get up to speed. Yes, losing Luai and Fisher-Harris is going to disrupt them. That's where I think Cronulla could potentially get under the skin and disrupt the Panthers by putting a lot more pressure on Cleary to guide the side around. Now, yes, we saw again in the grand final against Brisbane, he took control, and Cogger did help, but he took control when Luai was bashed up. We saw how that partnership worked really well against Melbourne, where Cleary took control of the kicking game. Yes, Luai did assist, but other players stepped up when certain players were having an iffy start to that game. So their system bails them out. That's going to be the game of the day, in my opinion. That is going to be the main course. But the playing surface by this point will be looking like Magic Round on day 2, potentially early day 3. It's going to be looking really bashed up and tired. And that's going to be interesting to see, how it affects the play. Honestly, it's going to be interesting to see how it affects the play. But I think it's going to be an arm wrestle. It's going to be fun, and we've got a lot of Origin players on display. So I think the intensity levels is going to be like last year. It's going to be Origin levels of intensity. And both games last year, both sides, the physical battle was Origin levels. So I'm really looking forward to these 4 games. It's going to be fun, and I think the Penrith-Cranard game probably is the hardest one to call. I think that could go to Golden Point. But there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comments section below on how you think the games are going to play out. But from me for now, it is goodbye. Thank you very much for watching. I'll have some more content for all you guys very, very soon.